Yeah, I don't know. I was never that much of a Knicks fan. You know, I grew up in Jersey. I mean, Michael Jordan was like, he was basketball, right? So, like, to not like Michael Jordan was like not liking basketball. I mean, he changed the style of the game, and he really, changed all the rules for Nike. I mean, Nike without Michael Jordan, and then the follow-on of, all the athletes that, followed in the trail of that success, certainly in like a 10-year period there, really changed the game for Nike. So there's a lot of reasons to be culturally aware of him, not just for his style of play and his grace, but for his astuteness as a marketeer and the kind of industry he built around himself. It was a very beautiful thing. I'm here because the tequila is so much better in Mexico City than in New Jersey, frankly. No, I'm kidding. I'm here to help, get the message out to some of our partners, our retail partners, folks like yourself, about the state of our watch business and some of the future of it, where it's headed, where it's been, much of what I shared with you downstairs. I travel markets all over the world now. Virtually, 50-60% of my business is international now. So I don't underestimate a city like Mexico City with 16, 17, 18, whatever it is, million people, and just the country, and paying attention to the distribution and all the needs of all of our partners. Our watch business specifically is one that has a pretty sophisticated sales and distribution team, and they're very first class. I'm very proud of them. The way they present themselves, if it's at Basel in Switzerland, at their trade shows, and then just in markets around the world, Greece, Spain, Italy, they just do a really good job, and I'm proud of it. So, I want to help and learn a little bit of the rope, see, observe. Well, what's interesting is that the idea of the social grid and the social network has effectively been around forever, right? It's just every generation reveals itself slightly differently and reflects the mood of the creative class and then the mood of technology, right? So, we were talking about this earlier, where I remember in the 80s, there was a thing called party lines. Right? I don't know how much you're young. You might not know about this, but it used to be phone numbers where if you heard a special 3 ring, you'd pick up, and in a community, you could get 40 people onto a phone at once, and you don't know who they were. It was kind of like these stranger party lines that the phone providers used to provide. Hip hop, which is kind of like an early Twitter or something, or like looking at an early Facebook wall, right? It was this random state of expression and, saying, I'm here, I want to be heard, to a group of people that, you might not even know, okay? So I don't think that that's unique. I think that's been going on since the Greek and Roman Empire. What was interesting about the streetwear game and street art is that the emergence of hip-hop in the 80s, there was still the role of music marketing. So much of music marketing was dependent on street teaming, and street teaming was effectively, giving a team of interns or guys that you were paying whatever you were paying them, maybe a bag of dope or giving them some T-shirts or some cash, whatever it was, to put your stickers and stencils up, and because that's what the music marketers were doing. So when guys like Shepard Fairey were coming up in the marketplace, certainly when I was coming up in the early 90s, that was just what we were doing. And that was the social grid. That was the kind of like the cool way of communicating. You know, in some ways with the success of, in the mainstreaming of it, that paradigm has changed. Now the game is different. Now it's important to kind of, you know, I think in a lot of ways, effectively, the blogosphere has become like that whisper of what was on the street. You know, you couldn't capture it before. So now I think it's given more leadership positions to opinion leaders and thought leaders in the blogosphere, kind of helping shape the stories, which is cool. So effectively, there's this digital street teaming that's happening, and counterculture manages to want to be heard, discovered, and expressed. And I don't think that will change, you know, as you yourself get older and, you know, evolve, right? There will be someone that looks a lot like you, not literally, but 20 years from now, who will be on to a new mechanism of expressing what they think is important to their, you know, to their creative peers and what they view as like relevant street culture. So the game's changed a lot, but you know, in some ways, you know, the game has changed since the beginning of time. I mean, it's like welcome to, you know, evolution. I don't know. I don't know that. I think the greatest expression of, I think hip hop, the greatest expression of the political power of hip hop and street culture, and not just hip hop, but just basically any counterculture. And this is maybe a little bit controversial to say, because some of those that are kind of arbiters of like what is cool and small and emerging now don't want to let it go. They want to keep it small and confined. I think the great success is building industry out of that expression, because that's what fosters independence. That's what fosters new opportunities. That's what fosters the ability to kind of keep like-minded people together and create sustainability, right? I think, you know, one of, you know, some of the greatest lessons of like entrepreneurship and marketeering has really come from the streetwear culture and just in the industry that is hip hop and streetwear. And I think one of the greatest expressions of politically getting it off your chest is being in a power position to be able to do shit. And it's one thing to be like beating a drum on the middle of the street and like shouting to the political powers that be. It's another thing to be able to be empowered and just kind of like, you know, get things done and make a difference. I know I've used the platform directly and indirectly to express some of my philosophies. I don't know that it's political. It's not very heavy-handed, but I've done things in education reform in America. I've helped change laws. Would I have been able to do that if I hadn't had the success that I was afforded, you know, to be able to fund those exercises, because it's not free. I think I've kind of used it as a device sparingly. I've tried to be smart about the usage. You could exhaust that, you know, hand if you play that hand. I would challenge that Ralph has done a good job playing it, quite, you know, elegant. And it's only in, I think, his later more on years where he became more visible, as he established this giant industry around him that gave him the sense of, I guess, comfort to come out from behind the curtain. But for the better part of the first 30 years of his being in business, he was quite, playing the back. I think I've stepped out in front, on occasions. I've put myself in some of the marketing efforts in the past. I try to use it, cleverly. And same thing with Complex. Like if, Complex, it says Marc Ecko's Complex, but I'm not heavy-handed about it. It's like you have to give the leadership that's in place, the creative leadership that's in place on both the operating side of the house and on the editorial side of the house, a sense of their own voice. You can't micromanage that, otherwise you'll never have a sustainable business. If I come in there, and Noah has an idea on Monday and he wants to see it realized on Thursday, I come in on Wednesday and I shit on it and I say, fuck that, I don't want to do that. He's not going to work for me for very long. I'm not going to be able to keep those guys around. I've tried to build a platform to do things off of. You have to, create enough authorship for parties to both problem solve and express. New York, it wouldn't be authentic to kind of shove myself on top of these things. It wouldn't be authentic. I think what you've seen has been authentic expression of where I'm comfortable and to try to do the right thing by the business. Sometimes, you gotta be careful what you wish for. Like, it's not a one size fits all. It's not what's the word I want to say? It's not like Burger King, make it your way. You have to do things where you're comfortable. And for me, I think it's been, just about the right amount. And, I kind of dip in ebbs and flows. And I also like, when I'm authentically involved with it, like if I'm authentically in the mix of kind of ideating and stimulating a campaign or an idea, then I have a much easier time being out in front. If it's the job of some of the team and they were tasked to do it, I'm not going to go step on top of them and be like, it's the Marc show. It's not a good vibe.